Welcome to creating a chart. This is the two-page tutorial on Excel 232 and 233 in the Module 9 section of the book. In the last video, we talked about understanding and planning a chart. So now we're going to create a chart after we have taken a look to see what kind of information we want to include in our chart. Excel gives us a lot of tools that we can use to create these charts, and it's kind of fail-proof. If you choose the right amount of information, it'll give you the right type of chart. If you don't choose the right amount of information, it's going to pop up and it's going to say, sorry, we don't have a chart for you, or it's going to give you some off-of-the-wall type of chart, or it's going to look very weird. So it kind of lets you know when you've selected the correct amount of cells or when you have not. So let's take a look at this. We want to create a chart, and this is going to be a column chart because that is the default. Very easy to read. So we want to create a chart that shows, January, February, and March for the stores in Oakland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego. Now, in most cases, and for most charts, you are not going to add the total column or the total row. So for something like this column chart that I'm wanting to add, I'm going to select cell A3 through D7. So the range of cells is going to be A3 to D7. So you see I've left the total column and the total row completely alone. And now I want to insert this chart. You can do it a couple of different ways. I can use the quick analysis tool and click on the charts category, and the clustered column chart is the default. So it says, okay, this is the first one. If we hold our cursor over that, it gives us the Windows Live preview and says this is what this chart is going to look like, and that looks okay. We can see that it's representing Oakland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego. We have January, February, and March as the legend, okay? So we could do that. Or we could use the Insert tab, and we could choose either the recommended charts, or we could just go straight to the column or the bar chart. I'm going to click on Recommended so that you can see what pops up. With this information selected, this is what we see. It says, okay, this is what your clustered column chart is going to look like. If I click this and say okay, it's going to add it eventually. Come on. It's taking a while for it to generate this chart for some reason, which is very strange. So I'm going to actually create a chart that has the wrong information in it, or that we have chosen. There it is. Wow, why do I have two? I'm going to get rid of one of them. So, and for some reason, there we go. My Excel is being very flaky. Okay, so now I'm going to come up here. Now I know that this is the right chart. It's showing Oakland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego. So conversely, if we take a look at this, we'll see that these are the labels for our rows or our records. So a row in Excel is called a record, right? So this belongs here. So this becomes the categories in our horizontal axis. And then I have January, February, March. Those labels, the column labels, became the legend in my chart. So I have January, February, March. Then we have all of our values. So the highest value, it looks like it's 103,445. So what the chart did is it rounded it up to 120. Okay? So here you can see, here's 103, and if I hold my cursor over it, it tells me that this is the March point for San Diego, and the value is 103,445. Okay, so this is the value axis, or the y-axis, right, or the horizontal axis. Okay. Okay, so I knew what information to select. So what if you don't realize what information we need to select? I'm going to show you a couple different charts that are going to look very strange compared to the one that we know is correct. So I could say, okay, well, I need to make sure that we have January, February, and March. And then I need Oakland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and all of these values. So here you'll notice that my quick analysis tool is not available, which should be the first clue that we have something that's not right. And if I come over here to insert and click on recommended charts, I get a pop-up that comes up and it says recommendations are not available for the data that you've selected. To choose a chart type, you can click all charts. So I'm going to click all charts. And here I have clustered column because that's the default. But if I click this and tell it to insert it, it's very odd compared to the chart that we know is correct. So here it says January, February, Los Angeles, and then a dollar amount, and then Oakland and a dollar amount, and San Diego and a dollar amount, and San Francisco and a dollar amount. So we know this isn't right. And the reason being is because we didn't select this cell right here. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, you need to have all of the information in those columns selected. So I can't bypass A3 just because the information that's in it doesn't pertain to my chart at all. I have to get, even if this were empty, I would still select the cell A3 to create my chart to get it to look like this. Okay, so be mindful of that. Even if this were empty, even if it didn't have store, I would still need to select this because I'm selecting information in this row and I'm selecting information in these columns across. Even though there's nothing here, I need to select it. Okay, so we need to be mindful of that. So I'm going to get rid of that. Here we go. All right. Let's see here. I want to make sure I'm getting everything. So now that we have this selected, it's very easy for us to change the chart type. So here I selected this information and I said I want to insert, I'm going to undo this because I need to get store back there. I wanted to select that information and create this column chart, which I need to get rid of this one again. There we go. I wanted to create the column chart. With column charts, with any chart selected, you'll see Chart Tools, Design, and Format tabs up here. Okay, so I created this chart, and it was a column chart, and I say, you know, I think that I should have a different kind of chart here for this information. I can come over here and I can click change the chart type and I can say, okay, maybe I want this to be a 3D clustered column chart, or maybe I want this to be a line chart. Okay, I'm going to click OK. So now it's a little bit different. So now I still have January, February, and March, but instead of having, you don't need to see my CCleaner update. So instead of having the columns, I have lines that represent the trends for the dollar amounts for January and for February and for March. Okay, so I am going to go back and I'm going to change this back. I'm actually going to come over here and I'm going to change it to a 3D clustered column and say OK. Now it looks a little different. We have a little bit of a rotation here. We didn't talk about this. I'm going to blow this up just a little bit so you can see. So here we talked about the y-axis and we talked about the x-axis, but we didn't talk about this axis. For a 3D chart, we have what's called the z-axis or the depth axis, D-E-P-T-H, depth axis or the z-axis. It gives us the depth for our 3D chart, and we'll get more into that as we progress in our videos. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back and change this back to just a plain clustered column chart, and there we go. Okay, you could, depending on your screen resolution, if you look at the quick tip on the left side of 232, it says that your vertical or value axis might show different values or number intervals. I'm going to show you how you can change these regardless of what your screen resolution shows, but not quite yet. But I just wanted you to be aware that, you know, you could see something that's a little different than this. Okay. So that's creating a chart. In a nutshell, like I said, these are going to be very short videos. Now we're going to move on to video 3, move and resize charts and chart elements. So join me back for that one. Thanks.